Salish language revitalization.
Last me.
Last me.
Last me.
Last me. Sisao.
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 Sisao. Watchman.
Insisuken.
Insisuken.
Interior Salish is the first language of the Greater Spokane region, made up of 8 dialects: Shuswap, Willamette, Thompson River Salish, Lakes, Coeur d'Alene, Columbia Moses, Colville Okanagan, and Flat. The language is dying. Today there are only 25 speakers of the Colville Okanagan dialect in Saskatchewan left in the U.S., with the majority of these speakers being over 65 years old.
I'm an enrolled member of the Colville Confederated Tribes, and from my understanding is that our people have been here from time immemorial. My elders have talked about how we never crossed a land bridge. One elder in particular, Glenn Douglas, he'd always say, "We never crossed a land bridge. We've been here forever. You know, Niyaip Kuala. We've been here forever." And we've always practiced our ways. And Glenn and other elders have talked to me about how the land was like our ranch, for example. You know, the people would come and they'd say, "Oh, these people aren't doing anything with the land. They're so lazy. They're just letting it sit." Well, we didn't have to do anything. Glenn Chutin provided everything for us. The Creator gave us everything. We had everything already here. You know, all the animals, all the animals for our food, all the plants for our food, and, our quilstins we worshipped in our way. And we had our families and everything. There was an order to everything. And I think we still, a lot of times people think that the Native people, like it's almost like we're invisible or we're gone, but we're not. We're still here, and we still practice our culture, and we still have our language. We're working hard to keep our language, but we still have our culture, and we still have our religion and our spirituality. And it's funny because I remember being in grade school and reading about Native Americans. And I came home and I said, "Man, they act like we're all dead. Like there aren't any Native Americans, you know?" And I remember I had that same conversation like 3 years ago with my nephew. He's like, "Man, I hate this history stuff because it's like we don't even exist." And I said, "Yeah, here we are, me and you, real live Indians, and it's like we don't exist anymore, you know? But we do."
Salish language revitalization is important because our language is dying. The Pacific Northwest is an endangered hotspot for Indigenous languages, and we're losing fluent speakers every day.
I think from a more of a personal point, it's very important for people to have that connection to their culture and identity. And a lot of that, of Salish and, any language it holds a lot of pieces to the past and to bits of culture and identity. And if that's gone, unfortunately, a lot of that identity and culture is gone.
Dr. Joshua Fishman, author of Reversing Language Shift, classifies all Salish languages as Stage 8 or Stage 7 languages on the GID scale, the 2 most endangered categories, and suggests ways to help revitalize them.
It's interesting, like Lorraine and I have been really working with Sound Teats on Salish to make curriculum, to share what we were doing, to teach others, to encourage people to learn the language and share it with their children. And we're probably 3-4 years into that work, really, and we made lots of mistakes and we struggled, but we were having success as well and starting to move forward. And I just happened I think it was on Wikipedia, I was just reading about this idea of bringing back an endangered language, and I encountered this name Dr. Joshua Fishman in his book, Reversing Language Shift. And I just bought it. I just thought, well, I'm going to check that out. So I bought it off Amazon and read it. It was just like, wow, it was amazing. Here's somebody who, you know, an academic who actually wrote a book that really addresses this struggle that we were working on. And so in his book, Reversing Language Shift, he did case studies all around the world, in Australia, in North America, in Europe, looking at communities whose languages were facing some level of endangerment, from very extreme endangerment to just slight, and looking at those communities and saying, what works? What works to bring back a language? How can you actually reverse the shift from one language to another and preserve a minority language? And one of the elements he came up with was his GIDS, this intergenerational disruption scale, something like that. Talking about one of the reasons communities fail to preserve or revitalize their language is that they choose strategies that don't match the level of endangerment that their language faces, and the importance of that. So we developed this GID scale to help people understand how endangered their language is, and then to choose strategies that match that level of endangerment. So all the Salish languages on Earth are highly endangered. So they're at the very highest level of endangerment, or just one below that. They're either a stage 8 or stage 7, which are the most endangered languages. So Fishman shares that at stages 8 and 7, we really need to focus on creating just a few new fluent speakers, and maybe making a system where we can create those fluent speakers in an efficient way, and then connecting those people with surviving elder speakers and starting to raise children in the language again. Because most of the world's languages aren't written, they aren't the languages of government or of formal schooling. Most of the world's languages are stage 6 languages. And stage 6 is where we're trying to get with Salish languages. Stage 6 means you have a community, and that language is strong within that community, and all of the generations in that community speak the language. So children, young people, middle-aged people, elders, all speak the language. And if you can have that going on, then the language can become stable, can be perpetuated without end, if you have that kind of situation. And that's not where we are in Salish languages, and that's where we want to work to get to the place where there's a language culture community that's raising its children in the language. And then those children have that opportunity to choose to carry on with the language if they wish.
I started learning native language when I was about 36 years old. I took a summer class with Pauline Flett on the Spokane res, and I really enjoyed it. I really loved it, and I realized that it was just really touched me. It made me feel really good to learn, and so I started learning the Spokane language, and I volunteered for 2 years with their program and taught their preschool and kindergarten through 4th grade, and then I was hired on with the Spokane Tribal Language Program for that last year. And what I found is that studying language, it didn't matter that it was the Spokane language. It wasn't the language of my grandmother, but studying any native language, for me, it made me feel connected to my ancestors and connected to something bigger than myself. I spent those 4 years with the Spokane language program, and then I had the opportunity to learn the language of my grandma, and I got hired on with the Colville tribe to learn language through a grant that they got from the federal government, the A&A grant. And so I spent 1.5 years learning language there, and that's where I met Santitsa, Sarah Peterson. And she really changed my life. She taught me a lot about the culture and medicines and traditional practices. and she taught me a lot of language. My husband and I, after I wasn't able to work at OMAC anymore, we sold our house, we moved up to Canada, and we worked with Santitza to create curriculum and books so that we could have kind of a more concrete path towards creating fluent speakers in the Colville Okanagan language. And from there, I've been studying still and working on my fluency. And we started up a small nonprofit. And we've just been doing a lot of outreach with language, teaching classes at the different universities and colleges in Spokane Falls Community College, Eastern Washington University. And we also started up an immersion school in Spokane. And we serve children that are 2.5 years old up to 7 years old right now. And so that's so far what I've done with language, and doing this work has changed my life, and it's changed how I feel about who I am, and kind of set me on a path, I guess, that I never would have imagined.
Efforts to revitalize the different dialects of Salish include the Kalispel Language Nest, classes at Spokane Falls Community College, local high school classes taught by J.R. Bluff, and last but not least, the Salish School of Spokane.
Monkey, to luxury. Mama, iksho, ya, sweet. Huge kids, hokoko, hips. Quack, quack, a silky monkey, to luxury. Mama, iksho, ya, sweet. Huge kids, hokoko, hips. Quack, quack, Noxy monkey, to luxury. Mama, iksho, ya, sweet. Huge kids, hokoko, hips. Quack, quack,
What's your name?
Celine.
And what do you like most about your school?
That we get to do a lot of cool stuff here, and sometimes we get to learn stuff on the computer. I like playing with all my friends, and then I have a new math book.
Can you say something in Salish?
Nice and loud. What were you going to say? Remember?
Why chops like cans and Spokane?
What does that mean in English?
Hi, my name is Talakin. I live in Spokane.
Lead him to the thundering water, wait for me there. It is my earth. It is my...
Salish School of Spokane began as kind of an experiment. My mom, Lorraine Wiley, the executive director of Salish School of Spokane, decided that she really wanted to be teaching children Salish language. And so she started watching Tlacan here, and my cousin and 2 other girls in my aunt's basement during the day, and created a little school there with the 4 girls. And it was a great success. The girls learned tons of language, and my mom realized it was truly what she wanted to do and how she felt she could move forward to revitalize Salish. So she ended up deciding that she wanted to create Salish School of Spokane, and took a year off to kind of do some planning and get ready for that, and then opened up the school. And the school has been in operation, this is year 3, and it's been a great success. Our children are speaking lots and lots of Salish, and it's wonderful to hear them talk to each other, and it's amazing to see how fast they learn it.
We have 12 students right now, and we're just really working to focus on offering those children the opportunity to learn the language in Selk'chin, Colville Okanagan Salish, through immersion learning. Our basic operations, we still really depend upon just the community, individual donors, and we write grants. We ask local tribes to support us. And then this new A&A grant is really allowing us to train a new group of fluent speakers and teachers who are committed to bringing back the language.
Oh, there are lots of ways people can help to revitalize the native languages. There's so much work to be done. There's learning the language, teaching the language. We need so much, especially for our young ones. And we need books, we need games, we need, videos. We need all sorts of things to help with the learning of the language. And then there's also just creating community. A lot of people don't even realize that Spokane, they're living here in Spokane, they don't even realize that's a Native American word. That Spokane, the name of our town, is a Native American word. And I think, just building community, building awareness, that helps the language. I think there's a lot of goodwill with people. They want help, and we want people to help with this language effort, because it's important, not just for us, but for, I think, the larger community, the larger area of Spokane, the larger area of the Pacific Northwest. If we lose our native languages, we've lost something really special. Just like if you lose an animal that's endangered, you've lost something really special there.
And I'm sure when you speak with Lorraine, she'll share this, is that something she's taught me and everyone else, I think, is that these languages went away for a lot of reasons. And a lot of different people, a lot of different actors had their hand in that process of putting the language down and taking the language away. And her lesson is that it will take all of us and all those different actors and all people to help it come back. That the Salish languages are the original languages of this land. So anybody who lives here, it's part of your heritage, it's part of your life. And it's beautiful, it's interesting. And so all people can have a hand in bringing that back. All people can contribute resources, financially or through volunteering. There's so many jobs need doing, so much work that needs doing. And then, so to me, the number one thing that just anyone can do is to be aware, to appreciate the beauty of it, and then put in your time and dollars. There are now people who really are working to bring the languages back, and the surviving fluent speakers are working so hard, and so they need our financial support. They need our volunteer hours to make this happen and share this language, which is part of the heritage of everyone who lives in this area.
It's really important for us to revitalize our languages because it's part of who we are. Because, and I'm talking for myself, but I believe this for other people that I've seen who have really gotten into the language revitalization movement, it changes their life. Because when you start learning your language, it connects you to your ancestors. It connects you to those who've gone on before us, those who've crossed over to the other side. And it connects us to ourselves, that part of ourselves that's been lost. It's learning the language, it's a healing piece. It's kind of like connecting all the parts of the puzzles that kind of got scattered. And the language is just one other piece of that whole picture that will help our communities to become healthy and whole again.